Hi, we're all set.
All set to go?
Oh, yeah.
All right.
I'm all.
Good evening, everyone. Welcome to our town board meeting this evening. Councilor Denton, would you lead us in the pledge?
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you, Elaine. Sorry, with all this rainy weather, the allergies and everything is
Makes
acting
you
up.
thirsty, right?
Yeah. This evening, as far as the open podium goes, I have a couple of comments to make. The Bowman Road project, which we had reached out to the county for funding for this because they were going to offer economic development funding. And at the time, there was no dollar amount of how much was available. But I was encouraged to send our proposal for widening the shoulders and all that type of thing for biking and walking, which the scope of work was a little over $1 million for that project. So I spoke with the county earlier this week, and I was told that, Ed, we only have about 2.1 million available for all the municipalities, which includes the villages as well as the town. So it's sort of like, that dog won't hunt, okay? Yeah, so I said, oh, okay, and what about the Main Street program that they talked about, which another individual is handling? And she explained to me that the most you're going to see there is, if you can get the money, is 500,000. But that's for, it depends. There's very many obstacles, I guess you could say, that we have to go through to get that. So at this point in time, the funding is not really there or available. I also spoke with Barb Sturrock, who is a resident on Bowman, been there for many years, many generations. And she and her neighbors had some major concerns about the project. We, of course, heard from the individuals up in the Clark Hill and people who just really wanted to have access of their area to 90, to the canal and that type of thing. But they had some very good reasons at the time why they didn't feel this was a good project. So at this time, we are putting that on hold, or we're just not going to do it as proposed at this point in time. Will we look at it? Well, I know that the comprehensive plan is still part of the process. So however that falls in the comprehensive plan, it will be addressed at that time. There won't be anyone here speaking on behalf of the Bowman Road project for our open podium. Yes.
If you're still speaking about that, great. If not, I do want to ask you a follow-up.
Sure.
In starting this role, I remember being kind of surprised that we were constantly supposed to solve problems without ever knowing that we'd be able to get intermunicipal support and funding and the chicken and the egg scenario. And it's this constant chase. So I do want to say that I think what was so great and what was the germination for even the idea was that neighbors were coming together,
yes,
looking for bikeability and walkability, which we do want to talk about within the context of the comprehensive plan.
Right.
But I would never want neighbors or people to think that decisions were being made ever without their input.
Correct.
So it's not as if this was so far down the road ever that it would not have heard, we wouldn't have heard folks.
It was basically exploratory.
It was
It
literally.
really was. I mean, it was in the infant stages, I would say, So
But I think that's what's hard is that we it's not like everybody's paying attention to every single thing that's being discussed, and then we may be at a stage where we're what sounds like something very public and very far down the road is actually not, or the other way around, where something is quite far down the road and people are catching up, and it is. So I think that's a difficult challenge for us.
And when I received a call from Barbara Sturrock after the meeting, and she said, I saw the minutes, and so she was very concerned, and I explained to her actually when we had first talked of this was when we had considered a new municipal building over on the landfill.
Right.
And it'd be so great if we could have all of the connections with the canal, with Burdick Street, with Town Center, with Bowman Road, you know, all part of that, centralizing into that location. I said, that was, of course, we're not looking at that location right now, but that, she understood, and I also said, look, Barbara, if you have some concerns, we want to hear everyone's input on this. So we did, you know, quite clearly. So,
And the comprehensive planning will continue that.
correct. Next topic for the open podium was is the solar moratorium. Some individuals wanted to comment tonight, including developers and so on. And what I've done, I've tried to reach out to everyone who wanted to speak tonight. I don't know if I did or not. But what I have proposed is that tonight we will be setting a date for a public hearing on the moratorium. So what I'm asking individuals to do, which everyone I've talked to are fine with it, is we are going to wait until, I believe it's going to be the 28th, but we can't make it official until we're ready to have a public hearing on the moratorium at that time. Therefore, we can hear everybody on both sides at that, you know, at that meeting. So I just want to make sure that that was all clear tonight too. I don't know if there was anything that was, if there was anyone that had anything to speak on other than those two things. You know, I know that I've already taken up about 10 minutes of the 15 minutes, but.
So it would just be if any of the virtual attendees that wanted to speak, if they were here for open podium, if they would raise their hand and then I can push them in.
Very good. We can move along unless someone jumps up at us.
I don't see any hands.
Is there anybody here who has a different topic?
Yes, anyone in the room, any different topic? Okay, we'll move right along then. So, okay. Very good, everyone. Thank you. Item 4 is approval of the minutes of June 9th, and also we have minutes of June 23rd, so we'll need 2 separate motions.
So, Mr. Supervisor, I make a motion to approve the minutes of 6/9.
No second?
All right, all in favor?
Aye.
Any comments or anything with it?
I was absent.
Oh, that's right. Okay. All right.
So we have an abstention.
Right, yeah, one, okay. Opposed, no one's, okay, carried, very good. Next, June 23rd.
Mr. Supervisor, I'd like to make a motion to approve the minutes of June 23rd.
Okay, all in favor?
I
Get any comments or?
just want to remind us
Yes.
to make sure our volume is high enough to hear
Yes.
from people in the room. And-
Yeah, I gotta remember that. So, make sure we speak up. All right, opposed? Okay, very good, carried. And next we will move on to the stipulation of settlement and order to Fayetteville Farms LLC. Let's see, are you handling that?
That is the court ordered reduction
Yeah.
in assessment for a property located on 7152 East Tennessee Street.
Yeah.
For the 2020 to 21 tax year, reduction from 195,000 to 90,000. And there is need approval for that, because the item is on the abstract for payment proceedings, so
Okay.
that's why it's prior to the abstract.
Okay,
And there the amount of the refund is $512.47.
we haven't had one of these in a while, have we?
So, Mr. Supervisor, I
Yes.
make a motion to accept the settlement.
Heather, do you have a comment?
Yeah, I'd second it.
Oh, all right, all right, very good. All in favor?
Aye.
All right, opposed? Carried.
This is the property that had the property on.
That's correct. Yes.
All right, okay, now we can move on to abstract 13, item number 6.
So, Mr. Supervisor, I'd like to make a motion to approve abstract number 13 in the amount of $599,342.71. And one reason for the higher than average amount is we paid all the back rent to Manlius that we approved at the last meeting.
Correct.
After that,
All right, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed and carried. Sarah? All right, item 7 is Fox Pest Control. We have a discussion of applicants for peddler's permit. Allison?
Yes, I'm just gonna come up here so that
Perfect.
everyone can hear me. So, is there anyone here from Fox Pest Control this evening? They said they were, they said they were coming. So just to give the board a little bit of history about what's going on and residents as well. We have had an ongoing issue with a peddler in our community, Fox Pest Control. And the reason it's before the board tonight is the process, the way that it works is that peddlers come to my office and they submit an application to peddler solicit in the town of Manlius, and then I follow the code through a process and I approve or deny the permit. Should I deny the permit, they have the right to appeal and come before the board and have sort of a hearing. We've had them before when I've denied permits based on background checks.
Right.
In my office, we frequently do receive calls regarding peddlers and solicitors in the community. Sometimes residents will call and just simply ask if someone has a permit, but sometimes they will complain. We are actually beginning the process of recording those complaints, in particular because of this situation. We've received several complaints about Fox Pest Control in our community, and residents have called. I would say they call pretty frequently. My deputy clerk is here who can speak to that as well because she's kind of on the front line and speaks to them. But they're very uncomfortable with their sales tactics. They find them to be very pushy. They find that they knock at different hours of the night. I actually had a Fox Pest Control solicitor knock on my door, and I advised him that I was the town clerk and that I was fully aware that they did not have a permit to have a supervisor contact me when we were open, and that he should not be peddling and soliciting because they did not have a permit. And I saw him in our community when I was driving home from work the very next day, just knocking on doors. I know they have received permits, I think from maybe 1 or 2 of the villages and one village. And the chief has some comments on this as well, but this is a problem. And so I could not in good faith issue this permit. So I just said, why don't you come to the meeting? They said they would be here, but they're not. So I am gonna deny the permit. I was just gonna have them here so that maybe we could just skip right to this part. I don't know, Chief, if you.
Yeah, I completely agree with the town clerk. We, the police department, we received numerous complaints from this one particular organization. To include today, one of our officers, Dan Phillips, Dan Tyrell sitting right here, they solicited the village of Manila and they have extremely aggressive soliciting techniques, if you will. It makes people feel very, very uncomfortable. We put something out on social media. Councilor Deere recommended that. We put out something and we just received so many complaints. We've already arrested at least one of these solicitors that was already warned multiple times, and we arrested them.
Oh.
And but in addition to that, Dan learned today when he questioned one of the solicitors that they were told from their corporate that they don't care about the permit process.
Yeah.
And they would rather just pay the fees that are associated with the fine if they were to receive a ticket.
Wow.
So.
Hands raised. So we have 2 hands raised. I'm sorry, they were attending virtually. So I have the TV producer and the town clerk, and this is that didn't quite work out very well.
Chief or Allison?
So they are here, so then we can speak to them directly.
Oh, really? Okay.
They also knocked on my door, by the way, too.
Yeah,
And they told me that a neighbor had like recommended them.
Yeah.
They
I don't
said
know if
things
they
that
were
are
at our house
possibly
in the
not
know or
true.
not, Alex. I know when I get home.
Hey, can you hear me now?
Just introduce yourselves to us, that'd be helpful.
Yes, my name is Lakin Kennington. I'm the owner of Fox Pest Control. And I have with me Stephen Fisher. He's the branch manager in Syracuse out there. And anyways, yeah, I don't know what questions you have for me. I feel some of the allegations that have been made so far are a little unfair, and maybe there are some untruths to that. We take our job very seriously. We do send solicitors out there, and we do get permits in almost every municipality. I don't know exactly what happened with with yours and Manoa and what the police force does. I know they said we have them in Fayetteville and things, and we have applied there. I'm just not sure where the disconnect comes. But as far as being as not taking it seriously and just paying fines and things like that, I've done this for 10 years, and we haven't had a citation that I've had to pay in 10 years. We've done really well on the permits. Now, Syracuse is a newer market to us, and it does come with challenges for us as far as the towns and the villages and just the limited space we have for a permit. And sounds like we've made a mistake that I was not aware of, and then the reps went back in there, and we're just picked up again. But if they communicated that it wasn't serious to us to get permits and to do it the right way, that just simply isn't true. But that's what I have to say about that.
I'm sorry, you said your name was, I want to make sure I pronounce this right. Is it Lakin?
Lakin, yeah, you got it.
Yeah, so it's weird. You're on the screen behind me, but I'm going to talk to the little robot in the center of the room. The town clerk, I had actually spoken with, I want to say it was a supervisor who, for your company, and advised her to not solicit and that there was no permit issued. And prior to that, probably, I want to say 2 to 3 weeks prior to that, we had contacted your company and advised that please stop soliciting in the town of Manlius and submit a permit. And we were told that those things would happen, and they just did not happen. So we had actually reached out to your company, which is unusual, to say, please follow the process.
So do you have applications now? Have they started that yet? I thought that they had.
Applications, but I'm not sure that I'm positive I could not approve this in good faith, given the complaints that I have received from residents in my community.
I'll say, I think every board, maybe not the supervisor, has received these solicitations to their home multiple times. I wasn't able to talk to them the second time they came around, but the reports are that the tactics are incredibly aggressive, that they're making people feel unsafe. People are being told to open the door all the way. They're coming at all times of the day. And so the issue we're facing is your employees have been breaking the law here in Manlius by soliciting without a permit, despite being told many times that they do not have the legal right to solicit within the town, Fayetteville excluded. So why would we give you a permit after you have completely disrespected the rules of the town and honestly endangered your own employees by essentially telling them, hey, go out and break the law?
Yeah, to back up, I've never asked my employees to just go out and break the law. These guys, I mean, they're young college kids. If you haven't met them yet, I don't think if you would just meet them, I wish they all could come in tonight and you could look these guys in the eyes, because they're not guys that are going to be out there trying to be abrasive. They're not trying to. It's actually extremely uncomfortable for them to knock on doors. It's not an enjoyable job, but they're all college students. They're doing their best to make their money to pay for their next semesters of college. We run a leadership program, and a part of that, I think, is super good for them to do this application, to work with local municipalities as part of their leadership and just the knowledge that they gain from that. And sometimes I'm here to take ownership for it. And if I were in your shoes, I think I would say the same thing. But as far as aggressiveness and being using like not good sales tactics, we pride ourselves in teaching these reps to use super ethical sales tactics, to not be aggressive, but to at least be assertive,
Also train them to make sure that they're following all the laws of the municipality they're soliciting in?
Absolutely, we do, yeah. And
it hasn't worked. Why would we assume any other training has worked for any of your employees? I mean, does anybody disagree that we would in any way grant this permit?
Karen had a question.
Yeah.
I just have a
Yes.
question. Lincoln, how many representatives go out into the community at any given time? And are they accompanied by a supervisor or a person higher up than them? And I was concerned about the training too. How involved is it? And another question is, where are you recruiting these employees from? It's very hard to get anyone to work nowadays, so.
Yeah. So I'll give you a little history of Fox Pest Control. I'll have Stephen, he lives out there, bring you a culture book so you can get a better feel of who our company is. We're Fox Pest Control. We have about 30 locations nationwide. We're the 15th largest pest control company in the nation. We have about 700 door-to-door sales reps, and that's nationwide. In the Syracuse area, we have 12 in that little community there. I own the branches in Rochester and in Buffalo. We've been there. We started in Buffalo in 2017, then we did Rochester in 2018, and then we kind of had a slow start in Syracuse in 2019 without reps, and then of course in 2020 with COVID we didn't do reps, and so this is our first experience with a real sales team in Syracuse, and you know, we've smoothed out the process in Buffalo and Rochester, where you know our reps will carry somewhere around 30 permits with them all the time, and because of every different village and town and municipality, and it's you know, it's rather challenging for us to use a different process and a different way of getting the permits for every town, and but we've done it there. But it hasn't come with a few licks down. Or I wouldn't let you think that we haven't made some mistakes over there as well. Anyways, so I would stand with you. I don't expect to get the permit, especially this year, but we definitely want to work with you in the future and be able to do that. Now, our company headquarters is in Utah. That's where I'm sitting right now, is out in Utah. And most of our reps are from this area out here: Utah, Idaho, Wyoming. We have some from Oregon that we recruit, and we put them up in the housing. We do all that out there for them, and they work just May through August. So they've only got about 5 weeks left, and then you won't hear from us until next spring. And if you'd be willing to, we fully intend to get on this better next spring, to make sure we're way ahead of it and we don't make these kind of mistakes again.
You'll be pulling all your reps out of the town of Manlius, except for the village of Fayetteville, which is the only place you have a permit? Yeah,
we pulled them out today. I wasn't aware that they'd gone back in there. Generally, you know, if you to know more how we do it, we usually a place like Manlius for 12 reps would take like 4 days to knock the whole city, and then they go on to other areas around Syracuse. And we don't want to be a bother, but so we don't, you know, if we're knocking your door like every week or whatever, like pretty soon no one's gonna want to see Fox Pest Control. But generally we knock through the area twice in a summer, and so if someone mentioned they'd seen them a few months ago and then they saw them again, that is what they're supposed to do, but they're supposed to have permits both times before we get out there. Anyways, we just need to get our staffing up and get a better team in place that's building a relationship with you. Noemi is the lady you probably talked to. That's who we have hired to do that. She's doing a great job, but she's probably got too many cities on her plate. And she covers Buffalo, Rochester, and Syracuse, somewhere around 80 municipalities. And that's a lot. So we just need to get her more support so that we're just ahead of this in the future.
I'll be sending you an official denial letter.
Unless you just want to file your application right now, then we won't have to do that.
That's totally fine. So I want to be clear. Does this count for the city of Minoa and Kirk?
Those are villages.
Those are villages.
Village of Minoa. We don't. So we have the village of Minoa and the village of Manlius has a separate permitting process,
Right.
but we do have this department. So you are acting the same officer represented here tonight, but for the town of Manlius, it counts for the town of Manlius, which includes Herndon.
Okay, okay. And then, would you be willing to work with us in the future come next springtime?
I would love for you to submit an application. I have a feeling we're going to be overhauling the process, having to complain things of that nature. So if you want to check back in, I recommend starting well before spring, maybe sometime in the winter, and we can check back in then.
Yes, not unheard of where we have had to deny these in the past and welcome the individuals or the company back to go through the process. I rely heavily on our town clerk's work that she does to make sure that everything is done properly. And of course, our police department, we work very closely with them as well. So I would encourage that, but again, it's a process that you'll just need to follow in the springtime, I think you said, right, Allison?
So I would begin in the winter.
In the winter, okay.
Thanks, Allison.
Hey, I'll gladly do that. We appreciate your time and we love your city and the opportunity to work out there. We just enjoy our reps love living in Syracuse and just the whole community out there. And so anyways, I appreciate that. Again, I just want to say sorry. And I hope you don't come away with you know, a negative feel towards our company, because we really do love what we do and do our best to offer the best service that there is out there. So thank you.
Just procedurally, you are officially withdrawing the application, so is that correct?
Yep. You won't hear from us or see us until January sometime.
Very good. All right, very good.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks, Allison.
It's sort of like when I say I'm from New York and people think I'm from New York City, you know, so. Some suburbs out here that they're going to wear. So. All right, very good. Thank you, Allison. Excellent job, Chief, John, and good questions, Karen, as well. All right, so now we will move on to item 8, which is the request for the annexation with the Village of Manoa. Linda Greiner, 7364 Crookville Road, Manoa, would like to, I think, that's you. Right up to the front part. You get right up there. Very good.
Give him that.
Hang on for a second.
There you are.
This is a larger one.
A lot of them have them right here. We can lay it right out in front.
Thank you.
Yep.
So we looked at the effects too. So this machine is the speaker, you look at that.
Oh, yeah, this machine. Nice and loud. Yep.
Okay, my husband and I own 2 parcels of land. The parcel where our home is located is on Kirkville Road.
Yeah.
Behind us is the parcel that we would like to annex. Okay, back up a little bit. When we were given our lot where we built our home, it was given to us by my husband's parents. At that time, my father-in-law raised Christmas trees on the back parcel. So what he did, he left a 50-foot right-of-way from Kirkville Road back to the second parcel. Okay, so what we would like to do, because we're getting older, we would like to incorporate that 50-foot right-of-way into our home parcel. So instead of having a parcel here, and a 50-foot right-of-way, we just have 2 parcels. The back parcel, Ferndale Lane and Manoa, dead ends on the back parcel.
Didn't realize it went that far, I'll be honest with you.
Oh, yeah, right, Manoa.
Yeah, that's, yeah.
So we would just like to annex that parcel into the village.
With access from Ferndale Lane.
I'm sorry.
With access from Ferndale Lane.
Well, yeah, that's where the access would be. We have no plans to
Right.
do anything on that piece of property. It probably would go to our children, whatever. However, we're just trying to make it easier for them.
So if I could understand, if you take that 50-foot right of way, there's no access to the back parcel
Only
from
from
Kirkville
Ferndale.
Road. So it would have to be from Ferndale, and that's why you want to make this change.
That's right, it would be, the village would have that piece of land.
Right.
You're straddling the village and the town.
And the middle part is all wetlands, you can't do anything with anyway.
Well, the front parcel, parcel one where our home is located, would of course, we're making it bigger. More land with the home parcel than with the back parcel.
Now, the reason for annexation too is that for reasons of sewer or anything like that?
Well, down the road, yes. Down the road.
Okay, but that wouldn't
We
be
can
able,
get water,
yeah,
wouldn't be a problem, but
right. Because they wouldn't be able to get to your home though, if you're still in Cookville. And not in the
So,
village,
no.
right? Yeah, well, yeah,
we're
yeah,
not,
sure.
we wouldn't want to hook
Right,
up.
right,
There would
okay.
be no reason to hook
It's
up.
only lot 2 that would go to the village.
1 and 2, I think.
No, just
Two,
Just two.
the second part.
Oh, just 2 would
annexed.
stay with the village.
And that was my
Not
Okay.
at the Kirkville Road.
Okay, gotcha, gotcha.
So you keep your property the way it is.
Yeah.
Just
Exactly.
subdivide
Only
it back to-
our property would be larger.
Yeah, I think this.
What's
Yeah,
the
right.
size of that, Tim? I can't see it.
Lot 2 is 4.57.
So this is where Ferndale just said, you want this lot
Right.
to be annexed into the village over here.
Right.
Lot 2,
Exactly.
okay. Now we can,
And this is gonna stay in the town?
Yes.
yeah.
We need approval from the village.
Yes. We need to work both. ways.
I mean, I don't know how often this annexation process takes place, but does it normally come with an immediate plan to build something or no?
No. So the process to annex would require a petition from the applicant to the, really the annexing party, which would be the Village of Manoa in this case. So you would have to ask the Village of Manoa,
We have already talked to them.
I'm sure you have,
That was in the meeting the other night, I
and
think.
they have no problem with it. That's fine, but you have to do officially, they're the entity that actually has to kick off the process.
Okay.
And then we would have to hold a joint public hearing with them.
Yep.
And make a determination as to whether or not it's in the best interest of the taxpayers of the town of Manlius to allow the village of Manoa to annex this property. So
How
we
was
can
that?
begin that process.
How was that?
How's it zoned?
Yeah, was it RA, agriculture?
It's zone agriculture.
Restricted, I would imagine.
Yeah, okay.
restricted.
So I think at this point, there's a process of a joint agreement between yourselves, the town, and Manoa.
Right.
And I don't know what the phraseology would be, but I'd like to authorize that the town is okay with you moving forward on that. You got to get Manoa to say it's okay, then we got to hold a public hearing.
Right. Yeah. Yeah,
So you,
you look like you want to.
Has Manoa already voted?
no, they
No, they were.
they can't annex our property unless we agree to it.
Okay, so I would make a motion to let Manoa do whatever they do.
I don't think you have to make any motions.
Well, I think.
That's a little
I
broad.
don't think we need to make any motions.
Okay.
I think we need to get a sense from the town board whether this is an idea that is acceptable for them. And if anybody has any major issues with the annexation, if you don't, then we can begin the process. You have an attorney.
I don't, I figured we would need one,
Okay.
that would be a problem.
I would suggest that you hire an attorney, and he can work with the village attorney on the process. Our role here is simply to authorize it, through certain findings that we would have to make, but that will come in the future. The purpose of tonight's meeting is to get a sense from the town board whether or not this is something you would be objecting.
And this wouldn't change anything as far as the town's relationship with how this is taxed. It would just be also, the lot would be also paying village taxes.
Yes, they're
Right.
paying the
So
village
The
tax.
town wouldn't lose any,
Well, yeah, just that
Well-
one lot.
yeah,
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
The village would have.
They would only pay part-time taxes.
Correct,
not full-time.
exactly.
Correct.
Then we would lose tax
Okay,
revenue, a part of some tax revenue,
Yes.
but not all of the tax revenue. But on a vacant parcel of, however big this is,
How many
3.4 acres,
Four and a half acres.
we're not talking about a
Yeah.
significant.
I have no problem with it at all.
Yeah. Right.
And
It's all the best.
How does everyone feel about it?
Sorry. My question was the two lots, and they've already answered that. It makes sense. Lot one stays in the town, lot two.
Right, and then there's a subdivision process that the applicant's gonna have to go through too.
I'm not really, that's why I'm asking for guidance.
Yeah, right. As an attorney would probably always say, you need to hire an attorney. Who's gonna help you with that process?
Right, right.
Because I represent the
Right.
town,
Yeah.
and the
Exactly.
village attorney is gonna represent the village.
Right.
And you have a subdivision that you wanna accomplish and a process that you have to go through. They can advise you on that.
And we can reach out, Allison, probably Lisa at the village to coordinate a joint.
Yeah, we actually talked about that today, just to kind of have an idea.
Okay.
And so it doesn't sound like we're there yet, so.
Yeah.
When that time comes, we'll coordinate a joint.
All right.
The subdivision has to go to clean.
Yeah, right, so I think we're gonna have to do a little coordination, and the annexation will probably take place before the subdivision, but will be contingent on the subdivision.
Right.
So there's
So
some
basically-
coordination that has to take place.
So you're right. So basically, that's the next step, the town and the village.
Yeah, the next step is for us to
Right.
talk to the village and I'll talk to the village attorney. That's Courtney, right?
Courtney, yeah.
I'll talk to Courtney and we'll see if we can start getting this.
Okay.
Yeah.
We're ready to hear from you.
Yes.
But you should seek your own attorney.
Yeah.
Oh, we will. That's not a problem. Okay.
All right. very
So
good.
we'll get the process going.
So
You wanna-
you can take your map back.
verify this for all the different things, like annexation, just another one of those.
Yeah, we don't do that. We've done one annexation in 20 years. that I can remember.
I remember two.
No, we didn't.
One was
Raimondo,
over, yeah, Raimondo, and the one over,
I was gone.
you were gone.
I was
That was
gone.
in between, that was in between, yes, that's right.
Thank you.
And I was in the village at that time. That's right.
Yeah, we have.
No, it's been a while. So, okay, very good. All right, now we move on to the number 9, which is the discussion on moratorium on solar arrays, which I think Sarah you corrected us. There's an official term for solar,
Photovoltaic facility.
yes. I wrote that down.
Voltaic, I think.
Voltaic energy sources. Has everyone had a chance to look at the local law? I know, Sarah, you sent in some suggestions which seem to make sense to me. I didn't see anything else, maybe the one little edit there for trees that had created it.
So all the changes that Sarah has requested I've made, it's not reflected in the one Allison has, but it's on
Right.
final.
Okay.
Some were just grammatical. She asked to change solar farm to solar photovoltaic energy systems in one section, which I did.
Mhm.
We're using that term and solar farms interchangeably in the local law.
Yeah, one question I had was, where we talked about, and I just wanted to have a discussion on this, the exceptions, okay? There was a review and processing of a special use permit and site plan for the proposed solar farm on Bowman Road, which solar farm is to be developed on the town landfill pursuant to lease at the town of Manlius. There's an exception. I'm just wondering, maybe this is in a different process, but, and should we consider any town property, which we don't have a lot of, okay? But include any town property as not part of this moratorium where someone wants to put solar on. I don't know, is that
I think we're fine to just
without
call
that?
it that one
Right.
project. Because again, you know,
It's like a
The-
6-month long.
yeah, and I think really the core of this is that we and the planning board need to do more work
Yeah.
to get ready to really understand how to balance everybody's needs as residents, you know, where we think solar should go and all that goes with that. And I think, you know, for whatever other town property there is, we probably would have looked at it during the
Yeah.
landfill
we don't
process.
really-
If we were going in for the landfill, I would assume if we had another piece of property that made
I don't think
sense.
we have anything
I
big
don't
enough.
think so either unless
Just
we
that
put in
small
over by the highway
Yeah.
garage or something.
And Attorney Fortescue Bowman is okay.
Oh, good, Richard, catch it.
Okay, so
Yeah.
one of the reasons why we are accepting it, frankly, is because we do have a lease. So
Right.
there is a lease in place already on
Which
this
takes time
property,
frames.
which distinguishes that from everything else. The town actually has a specific interest in this project moving forward because of the revenue to the town and because of the reuse of a property that has been
Reused.
yes, we can renew and reuse a property that hasn't really been productive.
Yep.
Just the word.
Yeah, that was, I signed that lease last year.
So it's AN, did you say?
Yeah,
Yeah.
Sorry, okay. Then I know that Elaine had some questions about the penalties and whether that needed to be in the local law. We do have sections of the regular code that does apply to anybody who doesn't have special permit who's trying to construct something. I'm okay with it staying in there. It's just specific to anybody who tried to have a try. But if you don't have a site plan approval or a special permit, there are penalties for you trying to go forward with that. And then Sarah also had questions about the variance and whether or not we wanted to even make that process available to anybody over the next 6 months. So I'm interested in hearing your thoughts on those. Are you okay with somebody requesting a variance from the zoning board of appeals during that 6-month period?
And that would only be,
A variance from the moratorium.
yeah,
Oh, I don't know, I'd have,
Why would it be needed?
Yeah.
I
Why
don't know
would it be,
if it's something we should.
why would it be needed?
Why would it be needed? Because as a general rule, if you have a zoning board of appeals, you have to allow variances
Well, I
From the
understand
code,
that.
from, and I would say that this was more of a use variance than a area variance, so I would argue you probably don't need it in there if you don't want it.
Because if you're going to it, wouldn't the board say, well, there's just a moratorium?
Yeah,
So-
yeah, I would assume that's what the zoning board of appeals would say.
Yeah, that would.
They would not grant the variance
Right.
because there's more.
Of course, it was moratorium.
Excuse
I
me.
like to make things less confusing.
Yeah,
So what do you want me to do?
what your recommendation and then was to,
Can I ask a question?
Sure.
So I guess I'm gonna understand the exceptions and then the variance related to that. So if people have been given a permit already, but they want to change their plan, would they have the ability to go to the zoning board of appeals?
So they wouldn't need to go to the zoning board
They
of
could
appeals,
still
they
do
can
the
go back to the
process.
planning board if it's already been an approved site plan
Okay.
or a special.
They're already in the process. Okay.
They've already been approved.
so those that are approved
Yeah.
essentially are gonna continue forward, but I think in particular, the two proposed projects on, what is it, Do Good and Salt Springs.
Right.
Those would be essentially including the moratorium, to
Yeah.
say those are paused.
Right.
For the
But
time.
Taft and,
The other four, I believe, sites.
No, there's been no building permits issued.
Yeah, no building permits,
No.
I think, no, and even the one on the landfill. inclusive.
The four essentially that are already approved, those meet the standards, they've already received the special use permit and site plan review.
Correct.
The only other thing, Mr. Supervisor, I have is the effective date.
Oh, of the moratorium?
Correct, and right now we have for a period of 6 months.
Yep.
But after 6 months, we could certainly extend that if need be.
Yes.
No perimeter stopping.
I think
I mean,
that's.
we don't have a codes enforcer.
Under, under,
Yeah,
so under case law, courts don't like to go for much more than a year on moratoriums. Unless there's a real good reason, or you're in the comprehensive plan process and you're getting close to the end of it. They don't like rolling moratoriums. So 6 months makes sense. I think that will give you the time you need to look at the local law. If you're bumping up into that 6 months, you can always extend it by another local law.
And I think that's only fair because it gives the board, whichever the makeup is of the board, that opportunity to review and see how far we are with everything if they plan.
And I think the important piece of this is not kicking the can down the road. We have already had working group meetings, we've been reaching out to every organization. I know many residents have reached out in favor of solar and opposed to solar. And, we are already looking at ways that we can make our solar code more robust so that, some of the issues we are already seeing, maybe aren't issues in the future. And also too, I think it's probably the more important piece is the comprehensive plan and having that conversation with everybody to say, because in general, people are in favor of solar renewable energy. I know there's some detractors and that's fine. But, I think the problem we're going to run into is if everybody's opinion is I love solar, just not next to me, then essentially that means everyone's opinion is we are opposed to solar. That functionally, that's the way it works out. So we really just need to have that conversation.
Yeah, right.
And make sure, identify those places in town that it's going to make the most sense where the residents are willing to do that.
And I think the concern with the mild difference is still, I think that's still important, to consider that. But again, that's again, down the road for all of this.
So to answer Tim's question.
Yes.
Are we eliminating 155-59?
I would recommend we don't eliminate it. I would recommend we say that we make it clear that if you're going to get a variance, it has to be a use variance.
Which is the hardest thing to get.
Which is almost impossible to get. So
you
I would recommend we change this to say that.
So that would be under use of the existing use variance. No.
May apply to the zoning board of appeals for a use variance.
Use variance, yeah.
So with that amendment, any other amendments?
So I just want to make, when I was reading it, I was a little concerned that I wanted to make sure it was really clear that this is just for a large solar project.
Not someone's roof.
So
Yeah,
like residential is not under the moratorium.
I thought that was under the exclusion.
It is
Yeah,
under the
it is. I wanted to have the discussion to make sure everyone thought that was clear enough.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
I thought that was.
Because it says your house or property. So if
Yeah.
you want to if you have a land where your roof isn't as appropriate, you can put the standing ones on your lawn
Yes.
and you can still do that.
Yeah, right. The exception. Okay. Anything else, anyone?
So this would be a 6-month moratorium on any solar farms, I'll just use that word generally, that have not been already approved by the planning board with a special use permit or a site plan approval. And it will exclude the landfill lease, and it will also exclude residential homes. And,
Any project that's already site plan.
And any project that's already received a site plan. or
And I think, let me clarify the exclusion. It would also be if you were not a home, but you were a store and wanted to put them on your roof.
Yeah,
that's
so
permitted.
I added the language you suggested,
Yes.
which would say under D, solar photovoltaic energy systems designed to provide residential homes or existing commercial or public structures with renewable energy through the placement of a solar panel on the house or its property.
Yep.
Very good.
Yeah, that's good. And so unless anyone has any other comments, we will need to set a public hearing. I believe that we're looking at the 28th, is that right? Allison, is that far enough away?
Yes. That would be the next board
Yes.
meeting. Right, Mr. Supervisor, I'll make that motion to set the public hearing.
What time do we want to set that?
We can do 6:35. That started then.
6:35 on July 28th.
Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Carried. Very good.
Now I'm sending it to you right now. Yeah.
Nice job on that, everyone.
I think, big props to Sarah for putting together the work, the study group and.
Yeah.
and Already, we're learning quite a bit about where our solar code could go.
And I may have an expert that helped us.
Did you,
back
you
in
found him? Good.
Yes, I did. Back in 2016, when we first put the code and the zones together on solar. And so I'm gonna reach out to him, see if see how knowledgeable he is. He's still as knowledgeable as he was. So, okay, excellent. So our next item is consolidated funding application.
Mr. Supervisor, I'd like to explain that the New York State has a funding process that happens every summer. It opens in May, it ends in July. And we are eligible to apply for funding for a climate smart community program that includes comprehensive plan with sustainability features. So it allows us to apply not only for the climate smart designation, which we've been collecting points for
Right.
some time,
Right.
but it will also allow us to put in some money for implementation of the comprehensive plan. So when the contract we currently have with our consultant is completed, that we could buy some more time to work on integrating our zoning to whatever the comprehensive plan has recommended. And
This is funding. Though. We're
funding for
applying
2022.
Correct. Oh, good.
Yeah, so we will apply now,
Yep.
find out in December, and get the money next summer. So there's no rush on this.
All right.
But what we need to do is pass a resolution to permit it so that the application can go in. We do not, if we are not selected for funding, we do not have to do the work.
Oh.
But it's a 50-50 match, so I need to ask for permission to pass this resolution.
When you say 50-50 match, okay, how much are we looking?
We're looking at a total project cost of 44 with a half being 22.
That we'd have to come up with.
We do budget at 22.
We would put that in our 2022 budget for climate smart and comprehensive plan.
But again, we would not have to spend it if we didn't get the other.
That's even better.
Yeah.
Okay, all right, very good. Yeah, it's not like we're hung out to dry here.
Right,
No,
no, if we don't get the money, we
That's,
don't
that's
do
the
the work.
important thing. Okay, Yeah.
May I make a motion then to approve submitting the CFA application for the Climate Smart Comprehensive Plan funding?
then they do an ending amount effort.
In the amount of,
Yeah, I just went down.
44,
It's a total of 44,500 with us
44,500.
matching 50% at 22,250.
250.
Yeah.
Okay,
Awesome.
that's your motion?
yes, thank you.
Okay. Do I have a second? Second, all right, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Carried. Very good. Thank you, Sarah, for explaining that. All right, item 11, we have EV charging. I believe that stands for electric vehicles.
Yes, it does.
A station at Town Hall, Councilor Denton. You're up.
So I was hoping to do a pretty presentation, but I didn't get to it, so.
Oh,
Just
really?
listen to me.
You give such
I
good
know.
ones.
So Sustainable Manlius has been doing some great work to find ways we can be more sustainable in Manlius, specifically on what the town can do to reduce its carbon footprint. With the help of ESF students and the CNY Regional Planning Board, we found that much of the town's greenhouse gases come from our vehicles. And with the advances in availability of electric vehicles, we need to prepare for the future. So I started the process of reaching out to different companies for quotes for EV charging stations to put them here in the town parking lot here. And I found the quotes to be pretty similar. There's different brands of different charging stations that provide different features, and I kind of did a little research there. So after comparing these, I looked around at what's currently around and what other municipalities have done, and I found that it made sense to go with the state contract that is offered by public health plug-in stations online, and they do the charge point stations, which is right down the road here in Dayton.
Oh, the one here,
Yeah. So I actually just charged my car is charging right now, so I can see how it works. was really easy. Doing all the research I can. So to use them, you can install an app on your phone, which many EV owners have to find the charging stations. You can also use an RFID card.
That's what I was gonna ask you. How do you pay for it?
So, like to charge your car, it's just through an app on your phone
Okay.
or through a card.
Oh, all right.
And you have like
So,
an account with the
That's
charge
the
point.
throughways.
do you mind if I ask you how much is it per gallon? And
So-
per wattage.
So
however
with
you do that?
ChargePoint, we can set up different users, so we get to control that, how much it will be here at Town Hall to use.
Oh,
We will
okay.
be able to control that.
So okay.
So currently in down the street here,
Yes.
at Fayetteville, it's free. It doesn't cost anything.
How much is it costing the village?
It would be just the, so I have that. It's the electrical charge. Paying for the electricity, and then they're probably, to hook up the system, they would need some kind of plan. Now, I don't know.
Is that the
Village,
initial
yeah.
hookup you're saying?
Yeah, well, the initial hookup, but then you have like an annual to keep the software going. I think you have an annual cost.
Because it's a computer too, so
Yeah.
it's always talking to its home base.
To
routers.
connect the data.
And we would be able to change that over time. So like, for initially, we could just essentially pass the costs on to the users. Because I know a large motivation behind this is to eventually electrify, the other town vehicles. So especially, I think planning in development would be the easiest one. And that does, they have significantly lower maintenance. You can get in and blast the AC, and as long as you plug it back in, you're all set. So it'd be, I think, a great move for planning and development. And I think this is a great first step.
So I just have a little bit more, and then I'll answer.
Yeah, go ahead. Yep.
So the plan is to install 2 stations in the back parking lot in the right corner up here. The electricity would come from the existing utility pole. This would provide us with a separate electric bill, so we would be able to track that the electricity cost for these very easily because it'd be already separated out. But then the software itself keeps track of all the usage for us. So we would get plenty of data to see how much it's being used. Is it, good? Is it, do we need more? We would have all that data to really analyze to see how we're doing.
Do we have to change any of our electrical power here? in
No,
town
so
hall as
because
far as-
we're not using the because you can hook it up to the building, but because we have an electric utility pole right out there,
Oh.
It just made sense to hook it right there because they can bring the power down, hook it up, and they don't have to go through any concrete, so it's.
Which we're paying for that power anyway already through National Grid.
Yeah.
So will it increase?
Well, that
National
depends-
Grid
depends
costs?
on
Depends on if people use it.
Yeah, so most likely,
So this is for public use,
public use,
so like a gas station only, where,
yeah, public
Yeah,
use
it's not.
unneeded.
okay.
So the software, so once we get them installed, well, as we get them installed, it potentially will take anywhere, I think right now they said 6 to 12 weeks, but it potentially will take anywhere from 3 to 6 months, I believe, to get them installed. We do have 6 months. We have to install them in 6 months for the grant, which I'll mention in just a second.
Okay, 6 months, okay.
So with the 2 stations, there will be 4 ports. So there will be 4 parking spaces for electric vehicles. If you plan to walk the trail, go to the park, or come to a town meeting, you can charge your car.
And
So for-
also the people at the Little League, because it's over on that side, so
Yeah.
the Little League and the daycare center can use it too.
I think that's a good location.
How long does it take? I mean, I know it's
So,
different for everybody.
1 hour gives you 20 miles.
It's just 20
20 miles.
miles.
That's what
So you
the,
get you back to your house.
Put it back in the ambulance.
and then so for when I charge my car in my house,
Mhm.
versus level 2
Right.
charge station, it's about 4, I believe it's 4 times.
Yeah,
That's
5 times.
Yeah, 4 times.
More powerful than that.
Yeah, it's a 2, because like in my house, I only have 20 lines.
Yeah, if you just plug it into an outlet, it's not very fast. It gets the job done overnight, but
Yeah,
not very fast.
okay, gotcha, okay.
Okay, so for funding for this, we are taking advantage of 2 grants that cover almost 75% of the cost.
Yep.
For the EV charging stations and the installation. So I've applied for the NYSERDA Charge Ready grant to get pre-approval, to make sure we are pre-approved for this program or this grant, because we're not gonna do it if we don't get the grant. So this grant provides $4,000 per port installed. So the 4 ports, we would be reimbursed $16,000. And then,
4,000 per port?
yes,
Okay, so it's 12 grand.
16,
Oh, I'm sorry.
16,000.
so
Oh, that's right, you had 4, I had 3 down here, sorry, 16.
for the installation, National Grid has a Make Ready program that covers 90% of the installation cost. And the installer actually applies for that, so we don't have to apply.
So it's 16,000,
16,000.
period.
No,
Okay, keep
I'm
going.
continuing.
Sorry, I'm just
So-
adding them up.
For the access that the town would be responsible for paying, it would be approximately $10,000 to $11,000, given if our highway will provide some signs for us, which I've already talked to Robert about.
That's
Wait
on
a
top
minute,
of the
what is
16.
that, Elaine? I
Well, the
missed all
16
of
is
that.
reimbursed.
Yeah, so 16 is reimbursed.
That's
So
reimbursed.
the end cost for the town would be $10,448.
I got you. Okay, you did a little different than I would.
I give
the town.
I give a lot of information, maybe it's too much.
Okay, they do this.
And so there is a portion that the town has to pay, but 75% is covered by this. other.
Right, I got it.
The bottom line number is she has
Yeah.
Elaine has an invoice for 11,000 something,
Yes.
which is really the expenditure.
But one more thing. So one thing to note is the reason for the access is the town is responsible for is to provide networking and the warranties for these machines for 5 years. So I did look into doing an annual plan to cover the EV stations, but it does save us a little to do the 5 years. And then with the next sort of grant, it is required that the EV stations have to be networked for 5 years. So it made sense to do that all in one budget. So we'll be all set for 5 years. I've talked to Anne and she's checked with our accountant to make sure we have some extra revenue to cover the additional costs. And I think that's everything. Questions?
I just,
Would
Go
this,
ahead.
would this money, that the 11,000 or so, would this be money that we could use from the recovery funds that are coming through? Would it be qualifying?
Yeah.
So based on infrastructure, it very well could. I think based on the AOT presentation, it could be.
yeah, we have to really, there were a lot of questions on that. Heather. She covered- That even Sarah from Association of Towns was questioning, so,
It'd be $2 million though, so
yeah, 2.8.
big chunk to worry about the
So-
money.
So I just want to make, you're
Yeah.
saying that we only need right now to come up with 11,000, or do we have to come up with 26,000?
26,000.
And
And
then,
we would be reimbursed
yeah, of the 16.
16.
So we
But we
gotta,
would not do it with, right, this doesn't happen unless we get the grant. So we know that 16 is
How many electric vehicles do we have now in the town?
when Ingrid did her study, there was over 200. That was before I bought mine. So I know there's
But
some
I
more
mean
now.
that the town of Manlius owns.
oh, we don't.
We don't know.
Oh, the town,
Okay,
no.
right,
So
so
this
it would be all for public
Right.
use.
It's for
For now,
public
yeah.
use and
And
then
future town.
future
Yeah,
town
future.
use.
So because there are grants to purchase.
Because I have heard that the one in the village of Baker was not used that much. at all.
I'm using it right now. Another car was using it with me. I tried to use it yesterday and it was full. So it's. you
Yeah,
can-
And they have
It's
the one-
there's really an uptick from last year to this year. There's a lot
Yeah,
more.
I've been counting cars in the parking lot of Target and Tops for the last few weeks too, and EV, or hybrid too, but the numbers are going up and up.
Absolutely. And so this is definitely preparing for the future.
Yeah.
And then
What's
too,
the
this-
deadline on the grant? Is there a deadline?
I don't believe so. I think it's until the money runs out,
We never know when that's going to
which is why we're doing it
be.
now.
I,
I can tell you how much it's left.
the only thing that sort of pops up there for me is, with the Salt Springs Water District that we just went through, we're looking now that, well, it didn't go through, I should say. And I know I'm sort of jumping ahead, but it is number 12 on the list, so we're going to combine this a little bit. We now are on the hook. Someone's on the hook, which we have to figure out who's on the hook for the engineer costs and the attorney costs, which I believe is around $26,000. Is that right, Ann? Are those numbers right? The cost,
Budgeted for that.
Today, I know if I find billings for.
I know we got an extra 9 over the 15, right? Which we budgeted.
We budgeted.
Right.
These are different categories of activities, you know, they're completely different categories of activities. I mean, it's infrastructure, but it's infrastructure to be prepared to be proactive versus having to be reactive.
Well, I get that. I'm just saying a budget is a budget, though. We have to find
Yes,
26,000 and we have to find another.
But like, as we just approved this resolution to apply for a grant that we might get the money for. Now we have to put that money in our budget. Now we don't know
For next year.
for next year, but we don't
Right.
know if we'll use it or not. So it's
Right.
like backwards, no matter how which way you use it.
And that's,
But grants are,
that's sort of what I was, that's why I was sort of asking how long
Yeah.
this lasts, because I'm wondering, and I know it's, you know, is there any way we can put this in next year's budget?
Well, why
Instead
would,
of this
we don't
year?
have a habit of applying for grants at the town level, and so we have to practice. And
We
this is a
have
very,
lately.
yeah, and this is, that we
Yeah.
have to practice, and this is a low stakes way to work on this as a town. It's much lower stakes versus some big, broad sweeping plans. This is practical infrastructure for us to, you know, we're not buying the EV for the town now and then plugging it in. We're
We'll be buying the car next year.
yeah, so we need to try this out. We need to also understand how we interact with it. It's also a great way to bring people to the municipal space. And if that's something we care about, you know,
Yeah, I mean, as much as I know we want to reduce the carbon footprint, it's pretty minimal from what I saw from that report, if I recall. I know anything is not minimal, but I mean, it's just, I don't know how urgent this is what I'm saying.
That's my concern, Mr. Supervisor, is, and I know I, you know, only one here, but, you know, my concern is the necessity of it right now. You know, I think it's important to take care of the town vehicles first, and right now, we don't have any
We don't have them because we can't charge.
yes, we need to
electric
charge them.
cars.
We can't buy them unless we can
But they're
charge them.
not, you know, at this point, it's not on the table, and I don't think that we need to.
Oh, it is. We have a grant application out for
Right
2
now.
electric vehicles for planning.
So, you know, mine is need-based right at this time with the expenses coming in from the water district, and it seems like there's something else. So anyway, I know I'm one vote, so
Well, there's a lot of,
I think it's important to be very careful with budget.
the apps you said for the planning and development, for what, 1 or 2 cars, you said?
Yeah, we have a grant application in for 2 cars.
How much was it for as far as the?
I don't know the total, but I think they run just about 30 to 35 each, and you have a grant, we have an application in for the vast majority of them.
We haven't even heard from the highway department or, well, certainly not the codes officer, but the police department. You know, are these cars what would be the best use?
Well, that's why we would look
In
at
the
the planning
future.
department first.
This is first, this is a good trial for the town to try these cars out, to see how they work, to see, you know, do we like them? Do we want to expand them into other departments? And many, well, not many, but car companies now are already starting to announce that they're going all electric by 2030. So we have to get on board or we won't be able to charge our car.
Who's going all electric by 2030?
I looked it up and
Tesla.
Ford is
They're
too.
already electric.
Well, yeah, the industry is changing over, so it's the smart, I mean, and residents asked us to look at sustainability. And during the last election, this is, no one's trying to plow ahead, you know, willy-nilly. This is extremely a pragmatic approach.
Do we get climate smart community points for this?
that's the thing, I know we must, I haven't looked that far.
We do.
I would think we would, absolutely.
Because there's an education component and there's the actual charging stations.
So I'm not really, so are we all set? I mean, I'm not hearing too many. Are we good to go?
Do you need permission to put
So
the
I have a
application
motion
in?
ready, if you would like to approve it. The only thing, like, again, the board has to decide to spend the money.
I guess the question is, when do we have to come up with the 26 grand?
Again, so I will be waiting for pre-approval from NYSERDA, so I can wait till next meeting, if need be.
Okay, so my understanding is it's not $26,000.
No,
It's
it's the
11,000 something. The 26 has to do with a reimbursable
Yes.
grant. So question for Ann is, do we have to appropriate if we know we're going to, we've been approved for a reimbursement, do we have to approve the entire 24,000 or just the amount that?
Or you're going to have to do that, so you're going to be invoiced for that full amount, so it has to.
But the invoice we have is only for 11,000.
Is that correct?
Is that correct?
Yes.
Okay.
The invoice is only for 11,000.
Yeah, because the plug-in station online does the other
It
transactions.
is only the 11,
Then that's the number we should be
then
using.
that's the budget.
Okay.
that you're gonna be-
It's a little more
That's
workable.
a good question. I can come back.
So,
Because I
Well,
know we
but
have to
if-
figure out, we have to-
If there comes a point where we know that there's gonna be an approved grant,
Yeah.
but it's a reimbursable grant,
Right.
then you can come back to the town
Okay.
at that point and say,
that's
okay, we have the grant been approved, can we now appropriate another
Okay.
whatever amount?
and you think you'll know pretty soon about the pre-approval?
So I just started the process, they should get, so it will take a couple weeks, so I don't think I'll know by the next meeting, but I should know in August.
The first August, okay.
Well, that's more workable. I mean.
Well, why don't we just, we could do it, we could make a motion
I
contingent
have it, I
upon
have it ready.
pre-approval.
Are you ready?
Yeah, go for it.
Okay, so I'd like to make a motion to enter in a contract for the purchase of 2 electric vehicle charging stations with Plug-in Stations Online LLC, which is on state contract, contingent upon the town obtaining a NYSERDA grant that will lower the total cost of the town's expenditure to no more than $12,000, and to authorize the supervisor to enter into a contract as set forth herein and on the invoice presented to the town board.
And let me just say that when she says it's on state contract, that means this company has already been approved by the state to provide this, these goods. These goods. So even though it's less than $20,000, this does not have to bid because it's on the state contract.
Thank you. The second motion.
You made the motion.
Yes, I did. That was very.
Second it. All right.
Yes.
All in favor?
Uh,
Okay. Opposed? Okay. There. It
I'm
is
gonna
a-
stick with my
it is-
horse.
All right, it is carried.
Thank you.
Okay, very good. Thank you for explaining all that.
I tried
Because
real
it's
hard
very,
to follow.
it's pretty tricky.
Okay.
So, it didn't, it sounded worse in the beginning. All right, and now, Sarah, I'm gonna pass the ball to you on this one. This is the Salt Springs Water District update. So if you could give us a summary of
So
where
for
we are.
anybody who tried to read the attachment,
I have my glasses.
you have to find the plus sign and hit it a lot.
Oh,
Everything is eventually there,
Okay.
but it was not easy to read. And I needed technical assistance, so, but the upshot is the South Springs Water District is not formed. The way a water district is formed is by 51% of the property owners with 51% of the assessed value of the property choose to have a water district. That did not happen. Therefore, there is no water district for the Manlius Salt Springs. And there's actually no further action necessary because the district is formed by the signatures and the signatures did not happen.
and
What was the ratio? So,
It was 24%.
Just under 20%.
yeah, just 23.8 something or something. So we rounded up 24%. Okay. Yeah, and for clarification, I mean, those petitions, it's still trickling, you know, but it's pretty much ended, you know.
Well, no, the date to submission is completely.
Yes.
The law does not provide for any end time. Somebody could come back 3 years from now with a signature. It would be.
Interesting.
But I don't think that.
But that's not where we're not planning to take any action.
Right, no, yes.
The board could decide that they will consider it. In the future. I mean, if that.
I don't want to constrain a future board.
Yeah, no, I'm not saying to constrain a future board, but if somebody did come in with another.
Yeah, in other words, we could ourselves settle that as a.
No, I just think that once you begin the process of determining whether this is in the best interest of the town, one of the findings that you would have to make is that it's in the best interest of the town. But if this board has decided that there was going to be a window that they were going to accept them, and if it's beyond that window, I think that would be one of the things that you could do is say it's beyond the window, and therefore we don't think it's in the best interest.
And so we're not moving forward with the Salt Springs one.
Right, okay, very good. All right, but we have another water district on the number here, and that is number 13, which I know that Sarah, you and I spoke with this group along with Joel with MJ Engineering. Do you want to give a summary of where we are with that?
So we have, speaking of petitions, we have received a request from other neighbors in a totally different part of the town to create a water district in the Apple Tree Ridge area, which is near the Cabaret Club, for people who don't know where the neighborhood is. And they have requested to start the process to create a water district. We have spoken to the town engineer about what they would possibly need to do that. The next step would be a map, plan, and report. Then there would be a public hearing. Then there would be a petition, and then there would be a water district. So it is a multi-step process, but they have asked the town to facilitate them going through that. And we are working with our engineering firm to assist.
That's the update.
That's the update. So they have also asked to do sewer, which is a little bit more complicated. That also runs right by their homes. So
Correct, yes.
we will be coming back with possibly 2 petitions and 2 map plan reports. So we will clarify that in the future. But so I will probably be giving updates, for a little while we work out.
It's going to be a while.
But it'll be
Yes.
there'll be a flow chart.
It's.
Well,
Did you mention the number?
Water district.
Oh, yeah, there are 3 residents.
3 residents. So we're pretty sure.
Pretty good, there's
51.
Yeah, there's consensus there.
Right, more than that, so.
So it is a very small project with a very low price, but it requires all the same rigmarole that any other government process.
Yeah, that's right. And it's gonna take some time.
Yeah.
Very good. All right, moving on to our highway superintendent, very quiet today, Brad.
Yeah, that's good. Actually, the only thing I wanted to mention tonight, Ed, is I would ask the residents to be patient. I know we've got some construction projects that we've opened up and or some future paving projects here the next few weeks, but obviously with the weather, it's put us back about 2 weeks in our paving.
Oh, yeah,
So,
so, right.
other than that, we're gonna keep marching forward here and hopefully the weather gets a little bit nicer.
Tomorrow is supposed to be sunny.
Tomorrow's supposed to be 90, but that's the other side. Right? We're gonna pave, but when it gets that hot, it's tough to work with. But again, we're gonna take the 90 over the rain. So we're gonna march forward here. But I just want to mention that tonight again to have our residents be patient with us. Any questions or concerns about any of the stuff that we've got going on right now? I know we sent some postcards out to some of the residents again on timing. So we're probably a week or so off of our timing.
I just hope Bach Road can now finish that sidewalk in front of our driveway, because it's a challenge, I'll tell you. All right, planning and development. All I know is I'm getting a lot of permits that put in front of me, which is good. We have porches, and we have decks and pools and all sorts of things. So Lisa's keeping me pretty busy signing things. So other than that.
We are interviewing a candidate.
Yes, right. I forgot that. Yeah. Tim, do you have something for us?
I have nothing.
Allison, I think you mentioned something about the MS4 report.
Yes, I just have one thing. The annual MS4 report has been completed and posted on the town website. The normal process is that we would hold a public meeting where we would take comment on that. And we would advertise that, and that would then become part of the MS4 report. So I would just ask, or I would just make note, I don't think it requires a motion, we just publicize it.
Right.
Is it
That
a public hearing or a public meeting?
it's a public meeting, it's not a public hearing, it's just a chance for us to collect comment. I'm fairly confident it's not even required, but it's something that we do. So that would be Wednesday, July 28th at 4 p.m. In the boardroom, and it will of course be a hybrid meeting.
So just for people to understand, MS4 is our stormwater management program.
Right, yeah, good.
So if people who have concerns about flooding would perhaps come to this public meeting.
Do you have a police committee meeting that same night?
No.
No.
August.
It's been-
August.
Oh, August, okay, thank you. I knew it was usually the end
Thank
of
you
the
though,
month.
Ed, for watching out.
Yeah, I had the same moment of panic.
Never panic.
That's why you jumped so quickly.
Yeah, no. all set.
That's good, thank you, Allison.
What time
Anything
was
else?
that again? I'm sorry.
4 p.m.
4.
Do you have anything else for us?
4.
Okay, good.
It's my birthday.
Chief, what do you have for us this evening?
Just a few things. So one is, FM School District has requested that
Oh, yeah.
we look into adding 2 additional special patrol officer positions.
Yep.
And the contract will be the same as the previous 2 that was approved.
Okay.
And so I just want to make sure we're interviewing 3 individuals, very fair background investigations on those. This was FM School District's safety plan all along.
Yeah.
They wanted to have a total of 4.
Right.
Budget only allowed them to start with 2, but now Dr. Tice would like to move forward with the additional 2.
And it's the same contract,
Same language, same contract.
something we need to approve this evening, then?
No, not the contract. We'll probably do that at another board
Okay.
meeting. We'll bring all the contracts.
Oh, good.
Vote to allow
Resource, that is
supervisor.
what it's, yeah, good, that'd be good, yeah.
Because
Just
I
wanna
think, didn't
make
the
sure there's
contract
more.
end at the end of June?
Yeah, June, yeah.
So
we
the
have-
renewal will be up as well?
They'll all be up.
Yeah, everybody, yeah, we'll do it all at the same time.
Oh, okay,
So-
that'd be
Do
good. So we don't
the
need
2
to.
at ESM,
Yep.
which are full-time.
Right.
3 at FM, which are full-time, and then
Or,
4
SPOs.
SPO, which are part-time.
wow, okay, good. Anything else, chief?
Just a reminder, next week, we'll be going through our New York State law enforcement accreditation
Right.
assessment.
Yep.
That'll take place on Tuesday. It'll be brief Tuesday, but hopefully I'll bring good news to the board.
I believe that is zoomed, right? Are we zooming that?
No,
You're not zooming with New York State accreditation?
I'm not sure about that. We're not there yet.
Oh,
We're
okay.
just gonna go through the
You're doing the
assessment.
process.
Final phase of the assessment next week, and then we'll get a final report. And then at some point, it'll go before the council.
It'll be September, that's the way of our quarterly, so, okay.
And then at the end of the month, I'll be attending the New York State Chiefs Training Conference.
Okay.
So I'm just make sure we're-
Recuse myself. All right, thank you, chief. Ann, you have a couple of items here. The trash and brush contract, bring us up to speed on that.
So just an update, the trash and brush contracts that will be no expire at the end of this year.
Yeah.
We have begun the process of updating the contracts for the new year. I have met with Council Volunteer, who did provide some input on what she would like to see or recommended options.
Yeah, kind of an exploratory RFP to see
So-
what's new in the world of trash and brush.
So we're working with getting those ready, and we should have those hopefully soon. We'll want those numbers, we'll want that to go out to bid, and we'll want those numbers for the 2022 budget process.
I think Councilor Waters wants to add to that.
Yeah, sure, I was prompted, I've been pretty interested in understanding where Okra's headed with their plan for recycling. And given that recycling is becoming less and less of an option really as it stands, I'm sorry, it's okay.
You gotta change this around at some point, right?
So, given that, there have been leaps and bounds taken ahead in looking at municipal composting. And even before that, I looked and saw that Okra allows individuals to get a permit to drop off their compost. So if you pay $25, you're able to do that. That might be something that we want to develop a program around and test drive some sort of incentive for our residents to get a feel for and kind of ease our way into this. So
I would
something,
say,
we need to explore something,
I
comprehensive
know
planning, of course.
our house, we started composting this year and we're down to we've reduced our garbage bags going out to
Yeah.
every other week, basically.
Yeah, it can be significant.
Once you bundle the cardboard, you recycle the glass, you take out all the food waste, there's not a lot of garbage left.
Yeah.
Well,
That's, I mean, and this is way too, but that could impact our, looking at what that would cost versus also what we might be saving in hauling away. Could be something to explore. So I just want to, I'm trying to gather information and we'll talk with experts.
Yeah,
But how trash and brush intersects with our other kinds of trash and recyclables is something I want us to think about before we start a new multi-year cycle.
right, okay, yeah, well, we have plenty of time to do that.
Well, right, because if we approved a new contract for 3 years or so,
Yeah, and then with
an option to go to
extension, I think,
5.
was the option.
usually 2 1-year renewals.
yeah, so it could give us like a 3-year arc to figure out how composting fits in.
And keep looking and see if people are doing something new.
Thank you.
Very good. And now we have the assessment appointment.
Too, and I know that Pat.
Oh, Pat's here? Oh, there he is. Almost.
So
Yes, unmute.
I can certainly use, but I know that Pat wanted to be involved.
Yes,
This
very
is
much.
His department.
Are you unmuted, Pat? There.
It brings back that,
Mute.
There we are.
brings back very poor memories.
Amazing what happens when you unmute. Okay, so we've had some changes in our personnel. Back in February, Phil Murray retired. He was our staff appraiser. And we just lost Jennifer Abbott. For some ungodly reason, she thought it was more important to follow her fiance down to Texas. So now we have 2 vacancies that are open, and we went through the interview process. We solicited the list from Civil Service. They provided us 2 different lists. One was the assessment clerk list. The other one was the clerk 1 list. The assessment clerk list was very, very shallow. I think there was only a total of 5 names that were actually on the assessment clerk list. And of the 5, I think only 2 expressed an interest in it. And as I said, we went through the interview process. We actually found 2 candidates on the clerk 1 list that just were standing out above and beyond everyone else that was there. So part of I sent everyone an email regarding this. And so I'm looking for the town board to approve the hiring of Pilar Lyon.
Oh, no.
I lost them.
It looks like the Lars on.
I think.
On the screen, we created
So approved, here we go. Pilar Lyons from the quick 1 list at a budgeted salary of $32,000. And you'll see here, Pat did give you a little bit of a history on Pilar here. The other is the hiring of Ryan Tyerman as well, clerk 1 at a salary of $32,000.
Oh, okay.
Motions if the board so chooses to.
Can they be together?
Separate.
Can I make a motion to approve the appointment of Pilar Lyons to the clerk 1 post
At a budget.
at a budget of
32,000.
thank you, 32,000.
I'll second that.
Okay, any conversation?
Well, I know Sarah and I talked pretty extensively with Pat. He had a great interview process. It seems like it's a really good fit for the department, and to be able to bring on 2 new people to the town, it's good.
It's, yeah.
I'm excited.
All right, then, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Carried. Okay, so Pilar is good.
The second individual again is Ryan Tyerman, same clerk 1 at a salary of $32,000.
I'd be happy to make a motion to approve the appointment of Ryan Tyerman at a salary of $32,000 for the clerk position.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Carried. We. is that
Thanks,
it?
Pat's at a training, I believe, as well, so I know he was in some sort of hotel.
Yeah, he's at Cornell.
Yeah.
There were 2 other items on,
Oh,
you know, that Pat did provide, that we were with the salary and title adjustments. Because-
oh, right, we have to shift.
Correct.
Yeah, okay.
Because of the folks that have left the office, people are actually training and moving up to have those qualifications.
Mhm.
So the first would be Christine Del Fuco.
Yeah.
She is our assessment clerk. She is also an assessor, actually, in another
Yeah.
municipality, part-time.
Yeah.
To adjust her salary to $53,500,
Okay.
which would match the individual that would be
Yeah.
real property appraiser.
Yep, very good.
So that would be
Okay.
We need a motion for that.
Need a motion
Yeah.
for that.
I could make a motion to move Christine Del Fuoco, into the appraiser's, staff appraiser's position, previously held by Phil Murray, for a salary of $53,500.
I just want to amend that motion. That she's not leaving all of her assessment clerk duties, so the title is not exactly the same,
Thank you.
Oh, all right, okay, very good.
but the salary is.
Listen, all in
Second.
favor? Any other? Oh, you
Oh.
second, I'm sorry, I missed that. Were you second?
Oh, no, I'm.
All in favor?
Aye.
All right, opposed? Carried.
And
Okay.
the next item
Yep.
would be Kristen Howe, who is currently in clerk 1, who would be looking to appoint her to the assessment clerk position in a provisional capacity. She will be maintaining some of the duties of assessment clerk. She is also training for the
Yes.
position. And her salary will be adjusted to $40,000 to recognize those increased duties that she will take.
Make a motion, please, to move Kristen Howland to this new position as described, with her salary adjusted to $40,000.
Okay,
It's assessment. So I'll second it.
okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Carried. It would have been easier if the new hires were also named Kristen or Chris.
Well, it's wonderful that he was able to fill those.
I know,
positions,
and I know
really.
they've been really working hard to
So
get that.
that's not an easy thing.
Well, and to bring them in at the same time, it's such a
It's
good fit.
amazing.
It'll be a great
Train
fit.
together, it's
Yep.
super, yeah.
And this is really interesting when we think about employment personnel, because it's such it's across the board as we're learning. I mean, you need to have an active movement forward
Yeah.
and show people what the pathways are. And it's hard even when you're doing that because of the hoops that people need to go through. Thank you. And thank you to our folks, who have served.
Oh, Pat's back up.
You're all set, Pat.
You're all set,
Well
we're
said,
good.
Pat.
All good.
Have a good night, Kat.
Unless you want to,
You can stay and watch the movie if you want.
So where are we? We lost power here real quick. And then it
it
came
was,
back.
But he's been approved.
yep,
You're all set.
all the moves with Kristen and Kristen.
And Anne read through all the details and explained the background again. And I believe that at least one of the new team members is on Zoom. So welcome to Pilar and to
Oh,
Ryan.
yes. Okay,
And
good catch.
congratulations to Kristen and Chris.
Thank you, one and all.
Thank you, Pat.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Have a good evening.
Good luck.
Very good. And did you have anything else?
Quick update
All right.
on- So I received final approval for our FEMA
Oh.
application
Yes.
that Allison and I worked on,
Mm.
which seems like forever.
Mhm.
Reimbursement for the PPE and other cleaning supplies, et cetera, from the COVID pandemic. So I did bring to reimbursement for $18,237.
Wow, that's good.
Yes. The other is, I know, Councilor Water mentioned earlier, the ARPA funds, which is the coronavirus local fiscal recovery fund.
Mhm.
I did submit the application on behalf of the town.
Yep.
We received a letter back that the payment the town of Manlius will be receiving, and this is just the town, not the villages,
Right.
is $2,018,420. Half of that will be paid in summer of 2021. The other half will be paid in the summer of 2022. And again, we don't have a lot of details on what we can use that, but
But that's, the village funds are already removed from that?
correct.
Yes,
That is strictly funding, so.
yeah, the number with the, it's
It's like
approximately 3.4.
Yeah,
And then there's a 30% between the three of them.
so,
Yes, yeah.
so now we just need the guidance on how to spend it.
How does, well, and when we get it. You know, keep our fingers crossed on that too. It should be interesting, but we'll see how that works out. Okay, anything else, Ann?
That's it.
Okay. I only have a couple of things. As far as the 457 deferred comp, probably, we're pretty close. I've pretty much interviewed a lot of people, a lot of groups. So is Caitlin and I with the highway. I know that Dan and Gallup and Officer Terrell addressed us a few weeks ago regarding what the PBA felt. I've interviewed pretty much all the administrative staff, non-union. But I feel that we were trying to still complete a little bit of a wrap up with the police department. There's still a few that I haven't had a chance to reach out to yet. Plus, without Caitlin here, and I think she's an important part of this because we were sort of working on this together. I want to make sure that, you know, we are all on the same page as far as going forward and what we plan on doing in the future. I have some numbers, but there's no sense bringing those into play right now until we get a chance to see everybody else. Okay, so that's where we are with that. I also have my supervisor's report, which I think you've all seen, which we need to accept.
So, Mr. Supervisor, I'll make a motion to accept the supervisor's report, which I did.
And I did too.
Okay. Was that a second?
So I will second it.
Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Carried.
Actually, I like it.
Yeah, it is interesting.
Sorry.
All right, that is all I have for this evening, and so I ask for an adjournment.
I'll make a motion to adjourn.
Okay. All in favor?
Aye.